Hey guys. So I have tried filming this video several times and I keep either just rambling on too much or I don't have enough time to just sit down and do it. So I'm finally hopefully going to record it today. And what I'm going to talk about is my story with my history of binge eating, emotional eating, restriction, just having an unhealthy relationship with food, and how I got to where I am today, which is free of all of those things. And the reason that I want to talk about it is, for one, this is just kind of a therapeutic thing for me, to kind of talk about my experiences. But the main reason is that, when I was struggling a lot, there wasn't YouTube for a lot of those years. There wasn't a lot of online resources, and it really would have been nice to hear other people talk about their experiences just to know that I'm not alone. And I know mine is just one story, but I figure if it can help somebody, then it's worth talking about. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So it kind of all started at age 15. I used to read a lot of women's magazines, teen magazines, and one of the magazines that I read a lot had recently added a health section to the magazine, and in that health section was a meal plan. Every month they would give you a different meal plan with the calorie counts, with how much to use, and all that different stuff. And I am somebody who has always struggled a lot with perfectionism, very black and white thinking, either you go all in or you fail. And I've really gotten a lot better at that in the last few years, but that's something that I've always had that mentality or tendencies to be a perfectionist growing up. So I kind of saw that meal plan and it triggered something in me that was I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this perfectly. I'm going to be healthy, because at that time I thought portion control and counting calories was the way to be healthy. And so I started, following the meal plan. It was very restrictive. It was quite low calorie. I don't remember how many calories, but it doesn't matter because I was a 15-year-old girl. I have always had a fairly kind of high metabolism. I needed more calories than were in that plan. So I was hungry all the time. But I thought that was a good thing. I began to make that synonymous with you're doing a good job if you're hungry. And from there, I just got really obsessive about restriction, about counting calories, having a certain amount of calories per meal, making sure that I got all the food groups. I kind of started making meal plans for myself. And they were semi-healthy because they were trying to match the food pyramid. But the whole mentality behind it was always that I wanted to lose weight. And by the way, I wasn't a kid that had weight to lose. I was always fairly kind of gangly and tall, and there was no real reason. It was just about, challenging myself and trying to look better than I already did, which is kind of what those magazines teach you anyway, right? So I thought that was how to be healthy. And I did that for a while. I had an entire binder, probably this thick, full of the calorie counts of all the common foods, places where we would eat out, because I couldn't eat out if I didn't fit within my calories. And if I didn't know what the calories were, I would freak out because it would totally just mess with my plan and I wouldn't be able to eat there or to function, or I would feel like I failed if I did. And I got really into running a lot too. I actually always loved to run, but I started to use it as a way to overcompensate if I was going to eat more calories. And it just got to a really unhealthy place. And I remember at one point being upset because I was really, really hungry one night. And I had already eaten everything on my meal plan and I was still hungry, and I was really upset about it. And I ended up eating some grapes, giving in to grapes and binging on the grapes, because you can hear people say that you can stick to all these whole foods and you won't have to deal with binge eating or anything like that, or emotional eating. Well, that's not true. At least in my case, that was not true. I was binging on grapes and then I felt terrible about it. So it was very unhealthy. And once school started, again, because this happened in the summer, school started again with high school and all of this, and, things got more stressful. And so that's when the binging started. I also entered into like a relationship at that time that was very emotionally toxic, very controlling, and it was my first relationship ever, so that was putting a lot of stress on me. So I would have nights that I would, after everyone was asleep, I would go down to the pantry and get like junk food that we had in the house and take it up to my room and just binge on it until I was just sick, until I just felt terrible. So it was this cycle of being really, really strict, and then, I couldn't handle the stress of things, so I would have something that was off my meal plan, and then it would be this okay, what the hell thinking, and I'm like, well, I already screwed it up, so I might as well just eat all the things I was being so strict about not eating. So it became this tango of like binging at night, and then the next day promising I'm going to do better and tightening the reins and like not eating very much and working out a lot, and then doing that for a while, and then I would finally just give in and binge again. If I was dealing with a lot. And I yo-yoed with my weight too. I remember losing, I guess I won't go into like the pounds and stuff, but I remember losing weight and being so obsessed with the scale, and having like a coach mention like, hey, have you been losing weight? Because it was noticeable. And then as soon as I would lose weight, I would panic because I would be like, how am I going to stay at this? I'm afraid I'm not going to stay at this. And then I would gain it back, and it would just be back and forth. So this kind of continued through college. And I didn't tell anybody about it because I didn't know anything that I've dealt with like this. It's always of the mentality that like I'm doing something wrong, and I can't tell anyone because it's so weird, even though a lot of people struggle with this. So I never talked about it, and just kind of masked myself in this healthy person because I was the person in my friend group that was like the healthy person. I cared about health, and I ate protein bars for breakfast and things like this. And I probably was like eating quite a few like nutritious foods sort of, but I was binging on all these other foods. So it was this weird like feeling like I wasn't who I was portrayed as. And that was really hard. So I went to college. I graduated high school. This went in through college. I was majoring in nutrition because I was going to become a dietitian at that time, because I thought, I love health, so I'm going to do this. And that was really hard because I went to college many hours from home. I think it was like 5 or 6 hours from home, and I'm really close with my family, and I left all my friends, and so I remember binging a lot in my hotel room. Not my hotel room, my dorm room. My dorm room. And, when my roommate was gone or whatever, it was this rush. Like I would go over to the grocery store across the street and get a big bag of Halloween candy, like after Halloween was over, and just binge on it. And then I would until I was sick. And I did not know how to stop myself. It was a compulsion. Once it started, I couldn't stop it until I got to the point where I was sick. And I didn't know what to do about it. One night after I had, had binged, and I was just feeling terrible, and I was just like, I need a solution. Like I gotta look into this. And so I went online, and whatever the search engine was then, like Bing or Yahoo or something, I don't know if it was Google then, but I typed in something like, like can't stop eating, eating uncontrollably, because I don't think anyone's using the word binging then, or at least I wasn't. Although at once I did find something called binge eating disorder, and I was like, this is me. Like, that is me. But I didn't know how to tell anybody. And if I did, like, I don't think people knew how to handle it. They didn't know how to help you with that. But anyway, and I had typed at one point, like, how to eat like a normal person. And the book Intuitive Eating came up. And if you are somebody who struggles in any way with your relationship with food, I highly, highly recommend buying the book Intuitive Eating and reading it. It's changed my life, and this is where it started. So I ordered the book. This was before ebooks were a thing, so I waited very impatiently for it to come into the mail from Amazon, and I read it, and it totally resonated with me. It set the switch in my mind. It started helping me. Letting go of like guilt with food, learning to trust myself around food, not seeing things as so black and white. So it really helped. I remember going home for the holidays that year and actually being able to be in a better place with food and kind of enjoy it and learn to listen to my body a little bit more, and that helped me a lot. But over time, I kind of turned it into the hunger fullness diet, which is what a lot of people tend to do with intuitive eating if they're used to that dieting mentality. So it's like you only eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full. People will turn it into that, and that's what I did. And so I started to feel guilty if I would eat when I wasn't hungry because it was like for an emotional need or something, or I wanted something when I didn't necessarily feel hungry. And I was still learning about hunger too. Then, what's hungry is not starving. Some people haven't learned the difference, and that was hard for me for a while. So so that helped, but it kind of I kind of fell back into that mentality again and forgot about the book for a while, but it did really help me start that thought process of letting go of the guilt around food that I was feeling so much and the shame around food that I was feeling so much. So I only spent a year at that college. I actually ended up transferring back closer to home, closer to my family. I switched to a major that was better for me. It was an English major. The nutrition thing was just triggering those thoughts that I was already feeling and dealing with when it came to nutrition. So it was a really good choice for me to move back. I was happier. I had started a relationship at that time that was making me happy at that time. And I slowly was starting to, with the intuitive eating book, helped me eventually let go of using a scale, of weighing myself. That was huge. That was a huge thing, learning not to weigh myself. And because that was a big thing for me, like seeing the numbers change was just so hard for me. And also learning to start to practice loving myself how I was right at that moment. So if I would look in the mirror and not like what I saw or think I need to change it, I would practice showing compassion for that body that I had and that person that was in the mirror. And because I had heard, I believe my mom told me this actually at one point, and like other people, probably from this book and I just from looking online, saying like the true way to, reach the point where you are comfortable in your body and where your body's supposed to be is to actually start practicing loving it how it is right now. So that was huge for me. And it took me a long time, but I slowly started to do that. And I also slowly started to focus on the benefits that I was getting from food rather than focusing on all the things I was doing wrong with what I was eating. So I kind of started baking a little bit, and I got really into baking, and I would use like whole grain flours instead of white flours. I would use some substitutions that still made it taste great, but kind of gave it a little more nutrition, and it made me feel really good. And I started approaching it from a point where I didn't think about calories, I didn't think about portions, I didn't watch how much I was eating. I just focused on the benefits of foods and giving myself unconditional permission to eat, which is also an intuitive eating thing. So that slowly started to help me a lot. And later in college, I got really into veganism and the ethics behind it, and I was really drawn to that because I've always been like an empathic, like sensitive person, and I love animals, and I had my dog Lily at that time, and she, I ultimately think that she is what pushed me to make the change to go vegan because just the compassion for her. So that actually helped me a lot. And I'm not saying that this is the choice for everybody who needs to repair their relationship with food, but for me, going vegan gave me something beyond my appearance and my health even, and my weight to focus on when it came to food. There was a higher purpose for the choices I was making with my food. And when I went vegan, it was already at the time where we were starting to have awesome options. We had vegan ice cream, vegan cheese, you know, all of these substitutions. And so I had a lot of fun playing around with those and experimenting with those, and having that, it gave me that unconditional permission to have ice cream and things like that. And I'm not saying that you have to go vegan to feel this way, but it opened up that door for me. And honestly, like, veganism is just what works for me. It is right for me. It is in line with my ethics and everything. So that helped me. But I think for anybody, it could help if you're just focusing on more than just weight and the scale and your appearance, thinking about what's right for you. So that was great. Then I got really into the nutrition behind veganism, and I'm glad that I learned a lot of that. But the more I got entrenched in the plant-based community, which focuses more, you know, primarily on the health aspects of not eating animal foods, and there, you know, a lot of them are salt, oil, and sugar-free, so they don't eat any of those things. They eat very low fat, like no oils, hardly any even added fats like nuts and seeds. That triggered my dieting mentality again, and I experienced some weight loss when I did go vegan and when I just started focusing on nutritious options. And I think that happening kind of triggered me to think, okay, well, I gotta do this all the way. I gotta do this perfect now. So I kind of spiraled into that again. Like I said, I did lose weight and was scared of getting back, thinking like, this is the way I'm going to eat forever. Like, when I'm talking about that, I mean like not eating any kind of, you know, junk food or anything with added oil, anything with added fat. I was not eating added fat, which is important for our health. And so I remember having periods of like being lightheaded when I would get up. I would have that thing where you stand up fast and you can't see for a second, or you see spots. So, I mean, I think I probably was not eating enough calories to support my body, at least for a while. But anyway, so I got really strict with that, and that eventually led to binge eating and emotional eating again, because I remember I did an internship in New York at Farm Sanctuary, and I was a communications intern, and I mean, that was amazing because everyone who lived there ate vegan, and so it was within my lifestyle. If you want to think about it as kind of like a religious type thing, it was just people who shared my ethics, and that was awesome. What was hard for me is that I had so much control over my diet at that time. I was living alone. I had access to all the groceries that I need, and I ate very strictly whole foods and everything. So when I went to this internship, I was living with, I think at one point, like 6 other people in a house, and we had one fridge, and we could only make like weekly trips to the grocery store, and I didn't have a car. So, and I'm already like an introvert, so it was really hard for me I panicked because I was like, I can't maintain this strict salt, oil, sugar-free, low-fat diet that I'm doing, and I'm gonna gain weight. Like, that's all I could think about, and I felt really bad about it, and I thought that I was like a food addict, and I have strong opinions about that, by the way, but we'll get into that later. But yeah, so I started binging again. When I was alone at the internship, I would like binge in my room, and I would get up and get something and eat it until I was stuffed, and then 10 minutes later I would feel like I would need more. I felt this like emotional pull. I just needed more food, and I didn't know how to like regulate this and realize like, why am I still hungry? For one thing, I was eating really low fat stuff, so it wasn't satisfying me. But also, I in my head, I was feeling terrible about myself. I was beating myself up the entire time. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, why can't you just have self-control, you know? And the other thing is that I was exposed to a lot of these eating places that were vegan that I hadn't been around in my college town that had rich foods and stuff like that. And so it was hard for me. Like, I couldn't justify it. And when I would eat something like pizza or something, like, I would feel so bad about it. And I just couldn't get over it. I thought I had to, like, atone for my sins. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. Like, I felt really terrible. And so that kind of continued for a while. It was between, like, binge eating or, like, emotional eating. It kind of leveled out a little bit, but I was, like, still following this way of eating or thinking it was right. And I would overeat all the time on sugary foods. And I think it's because I was eating so low fat that I wasn't getting the satisfaction from what I was eating. And so I would make these safe foods, like desserts and stuff at night or whatever, and eat a lot of them. And they were high in sugar, like refined sugars, but I had been kind of taught to think that, like, fat mattered more, and as long as you didn't eat a lot of fat, you were safe. And so, you know, I would experience, like, I would feel weight gain and stuff like that. I mean, at this point, I wasn't really weighing myself still, so I don't know, but I would feel like I was thicker and stuff, and I'd be like, what is wrong? Like, I feel like I'm eating right, you know? But I was eating a lot when I was not actually hungry, just to make up for the way I was feeling. So a couple years ago is when I finally got to the point where I am now. So I was, I think I always go to Google when I'm having a problem and search things, which is not always good for me, but if you see my anxiety video that I posted before this, that's a bad thing for me. But anyway, I somehow came back to the book Intuitive Eating and the process of intuitive eating. And I think that I was just ready. I was in the place where I was like, you know, I'm going to start listening to my body. I'm going to stop with these dieting mentalities, and I'm going to stop letting other people dictate how I'm supposed to eat and what I'm supposed to eat and making me feel bad for what I'm eating. And so that's what I did. I jumped into the intuitive eating and the principles in there, like all of the things, helped me finally get to where I could let go of the guilt around food and, you know, let go of the shame that I was feeling and the guilt about food and labeling certain foods as good or bad. And that ultimately is what helped me, like, stop. Like, I never have any kind of binge eating urges or emotional eating urges, because the thing is, like, emotional eating is not the demon that we think it is. Like, food is emotional too. And it's okay. Like, in my opinion, it's okay. And I had to learn that, because I had thought for so many years food is just purely for nutrition. It's just purely to fuel our bodies. And people still feel that way. And if you feel that way, I mean, that's fine. But I don't think that that is healthy for us. I don't think that's healthy for us mentally, especially people who have come from, who think the way that I do about food and things like that. So that really helped me. And I even got certified as an intuitive eating coach. I'm not practicing as one right now or anything like that, but I did because I wanted to be able to help others with this. So that's why I like to talk about this stuff. And, you know, I'm here for anybody who needs help with that. You know, today I can truly say that I love my body, and I love myself, and I trust myself with my eating choices. You know, well, let me just tell you, like, I had written down some tips that I wanted to give you, just that have helped me. You know, if you can relate to any of my story, even if yours is, you know, more extreme or something like that, I just want to tell you, like, just the main things that help me now continue to be free of binging and emotional eating. It doesn't even feel like it's a thing, like it's an effort thing, you know. It's just, this is how I naturally am. I feel like I can eat like like a normal person now. And I've never been able, since I was 15, I hadn't been able to say that until a few years ago. So the main thing that helped me, first of all, is to stop making weight loss Stop making weight loss or changing your body the goal. Stop making that the goal. And I know that's easier said than done, but practicing that can really help. Make your mission loving yourself and giving your body what is good for it, both physically and emotionally. So if you're following some kind of eating plan or feeling certain emotions around food, I encourage you to check in and start to kind of be in tune and notice what those thought processes are with food and those emotions, because if it is causing you emotional stress and making you feel bad about yourself, I don't think it's worth it. I think we have so much more wisdom in our bodies when we focus on self-love and trying to accept ourselves right as we are, because I yo-yoed a little bit with my weight, or I felt like I was, and today, like, I feel like I'm eating in the way that is right for my body at its set point, at the way where it's supposed to be, and so I don't worry about that anymore. I'm just letting things be. Like, this is me. I am loving me. I'm giving myself, nutritious foods because I know it makes me the best that I can be. But if I want a cookie, or I want a donut, or I want to eat out with my fiance on the weekends because that's a fun part of life, I'm going to give myself that too. I'm just going to stay in tune with how it makes me feel and not feel bad either way. So that's a big thing. Focus on getting the most satisfaction out of foods. That was a big revelation for me too. If you're going to have, like I said, if I'm going to have a donut, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to choose one that I really like, right? So so a binge food for me used to be ice cream. So now if I have ice cream, I actually want to sit down and I want to choose the ice cream that I like, and I want to get comfortable. I want to get like a blanket. I like to sit on my couch with a blanket and enjoy some ice cream and focus on the textures and the flavors and all the stuff that I love about it and get satisfaction out of that ice cream. And I usually notice that, I used to binge on it, so I would eat a lot of it at a time, and now I enjoy, smaller sizes of it at a time. It's not always. I mean, just last night, I had gone to see my family in Austin, and I got a vegan donut, and I ate the whole thing last night. And I usually don't do that, but I was like, well, I guess I really needed it. I think I was kind of hungry, and it was really, really satisfying, and then I was good, So, and I didn't feel guilty about it. And if I had felt guilty about it in my past, it would lead to this entire spiral of me binging on all of these foods and then feeling awful and probably even eating some healthy foods, like nutritious foods too, to try to compensate. And I'm just eating until I'm stuffed instead of just being okay with, choosing to have a donut. And the last thing I would say is, if you can incorporate basic nutrition that learning about nutrition in college, even though it was kind of triggering for me at the time, learning more about nutrition helps me now because I know, I know about fiber, I know about proteins and fats. I know how to make a meal with a good balance of fiber, protein, fats, and carbs, and get plenty of fiber, and that makes me feel really good, and fruits and vegetables that I like, and I enjoy eating a nutritious diet that's balanced, but learning just the basic nutrition, and if you read the Intuitive Eating book, they talk about gentle nutrition. I would say if you're somebody who comes from a background kind of like me where you already knew a lot about nutrition and you kind of used it, it's kind of, so much that it makes you feel bad if you eat something that is not really nutritious, then I would say it's better for you to just focus on, making choices of foods that make you feel good, focusing on how they make you feel, not using nutrition as punishment. So it's about finding that balance but understanding basic nutrition about things and just, understanding foods that I put in my body and what they are and what they are comprised of. If that doesn't trigger you, it doesn't make you feel like you're punishing yourself, then that can be really helpful just for understanding. But yeah, so that's it. This video has already gotten pretty long, so I don't want to keep going, but I could talk about this freaking all day. So if anybody has, if you have any questions for me, or you want to just like reach out, if you can relate to any of this, if you want to share your own story, feel free to comment below. You can reach out to me. I mean, that's really why I do this stuff. Like, I would just want to talk about things that I experience, ways that I've helped myself, and hopefully, you know, hopefully it can help some other people. But yeah, that's it for now, guys. I will talk to you later. Hopefully I'll have another video out pretty soon. And until then, I hope you have a great day. And, oh, also, if you want to follow me on Instagram, my handle is moderndayom. It's moderndayom. Same on Twitter, and you can also find me on Facebook if you want to reach out to me on there. I would love to connect with you. Okay, I will talk to you later. Bye.